Right. Who's hosting?
Whose idea was it?
Fuck.
Warbosses of Da ApORKalypse! Ladies and gentlemen, the Warbosses of Da ApORKalypse.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Warbosses of Da ApORKalypse. This time, we're going to be talking about painted armies. Should your army be painted? Are you weedy if you don't? And are you, better if you do? And on this episode of the Warbosses, well, every episode of the Warbosses of Da ApORKalypse, I am joined by Steve-O.
Hey.
Dread.
What?
And Scarnia.
What's the crack?
I'm proud of you, man. You fucking nailed that.
You did. One fucking take.
One take, people. One take.
I'm so proud this is staying at... No. So why are we doing it this month? Well, I sort of talked about this in the last episode, the depression episode, and sort of brought it up, and we all talked about it behind the scenes, and we thought, well, this could be a nice, interesting topic to wade into in more depth. I feel quite strongly about this one, so I'll probably not sort of lead the charge too much, but broadly speaking, at the moment, what we're going to talk about, well, we'll probably talk about how far we've got so far with our 1,500 point lists, how much they're painted, and whether we give a shit or not. Yeah, I've basically
So
done
how are you getting on with your army list, Dim?
yeah, I mean, most of it's still painted, but then most of it was painted in about 2004, so...
Should we invite the big deal in? Because he's probably got something to say on the subject.
Oh, pick me, sir, pick me.
If he'll give us his time, I mean, he does look a bit important there.
It's cool, people. It's cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm done. What can I say,
You know, if you were wearing your yellow version of your shirt, you'd have a reason to wear the sunshades.
Yeah.
And all the pretentious people wear sunglasses indoors, It's
Not all. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, I'm done and I'm still cracking on. It's still growing and yeah, it's it's good. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm there.
What the one that's done.
No big deal.
Well, I'm getting there. I'm about 75% done on about 2,000 points. So I've just sort of pushed along with doing sort of a whole bunch together at the same time rather than just stick to the 1,500.
Yeah, typical Dread. Just complicate
In fact,
matters
I've
by
probably gone over that now.
Any chance there, Dread?
Yeah, probably gone a little bit over that now because I've started doing my competition entry with this Dread squig off thing. So there's another entry for my army there as well.
I mean, I've got nearly 2,000 points fully painted. Dread's got 20,000 points, like partially painted.
Yeah.
But do you have a fully painted beer holder? You don't. You don't.
No.
That is the one thing missing from my life, as to be said. I do not have a painted
How's
beer
Scar
holder.
getting on with his painting?
Well, like I said before previously about the points changes and Grots, astronomically going up in price points wise. The fact I have the 30 of them done means I have most of the army painted, let alone anything else. So yeah, it's really weird for me. Like starting off, like when did we start coming up with this concept for it? Was it eighth edition we were doing we should do our lists? So I think like my list has it's changed due to
It was
points
1K to
changes.
start with, wasn't it?
So something like that, yeah.
It was 1K.
I don't know who come up with that.
I
Okay,
don't
and then it
know.
went
Someone
to
pushed the
1500. So I did a little of what Jed was doing. So I was like, I'll paint all me looters, and I've got most of them done, but they're not going to be in the army list. And now I've been distracted lately. I've been painting much, but I lost a bit with Steve-O a long time ago, and I'm finally coming through on it. So I've been painting a bad moon while banner knob. No worries, I won't be collecting bad moons. There's no fear of
I
that
was hoping
happening.
it would convert you to the bright side.
I'm
To
sorry,
the yellow
mate.
side.
No, I'm just, you know what I mean. I actually have some sense, you know.
Just think of all that DACA, man. Think of all that DACA.
See, I'm thinking of all
Fun
that
you
yellow
could be
and saying,
having.
"Fuck that."
The
Well,
canary yellow.
we can see some of what you got painted behind you.
Yeah,
Those
these are the grots.
beautiful looking grots, man.
These are rebel grots. I painted them up as rebel grots so you can play them in Gorka Morka. You know what I mean? You know, in case anybody else wants to, you know, play some Gorka Morka eventually. You know yourself, Tim. Or, you know,
Oh, anytime.
definitely.
Got my Rebel Grots knocking around somewhere. I need to finish painting them actually.
There you
Like
go.
nearly.
So I do
everything.
have. I've fully painted miniatures. The shock, the horror, like the first time ever in the hobby, because you know I still have my forced miniatures and they were never fully painted either. So it's you know, at least I'm consistent. All right, just can't complain. At least I'm consistent.
Well, mate, I'm getting full of myself and that for being done and that, but you've probably painted, although you're not finished yet, I imagine you've probably painted more miniatures than me.
I don't know. I honestly,
Heavy infantry base list, isn't it?
I don't look at it all at the one time. It's you know what I mean.
I think if we did a model count, you'd probably painted a fair few more than me.
I'm still trying.
I mean, even
I know you did 30 boys that won it.
I've painted most of my. I'm started more or less at 75%, and I'm still going to paint more models than you.
So I'm at
Yeah, you probably will.
Because Grot Crew, I've got so many Grot Crew.
Here's a question relevant to the subject of this video. Then, if you're 75% done, I'm 75% done. Scar, you're something
somewhere
done.
in that ballpark. Even I
Somewhere
don't
in that
know.
ballpark done. How would people feel about using their army as is on a tabletop? Would you be comfortable playing with it as it is?
Oh yeah, I have
I
done.
wouldn't. Yeah, wouldn't be bothered. Like I was renowned for being the guy who played with unpainted I mean, like no primer. I played with grey plastic for a really long time, to the point where when someone gave me a compliment about the paint job on my miniatures, I was like, I say, "Well, it's the Twilight Zone. What's going on here?" You know what I mean? It's like, so yeah, I'd have no problem playing.
I had my last game of 40k was using largely unpainted stuff. I used my Gorkanaut, I used my Squigoth. All I'd done with my Squigoth is glue it together. I just made the list. When I'm playing with friends, I make a list with what I own. I don't consider what's painted and what's not painted. So some of it's painted, some of it's not. It doesn't come into it. I prefer to have the painted stuff on there if possible, but no, it's the only time it's important for me is if I'm making a battle report. And I've only thus far made one battle report. That's the only time it's important to me. Otherwise, it's a friendly game. We just use whatever. Fuck me, I've used shit that's not even glued together. I've had shit glue tacked together because I've literally clipped it apart on the same day and just blobbed it together with blue tack. Fuck me, I've got even worse than that because I wanted a squad of like 12 Necrons once in an old game. I had 10 and I had another squad 10. I wanted to up it to 12. I put 2 empty 25mm bases on and I said, I'll just take them ones off first. I've played with empty fucking bases at times because
No, I've never done that.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. I use whatever. Raid the kids' Lego box. No, I haven't gone that far. Although, to be fair, that would probably be better than nothing on the base. Just stick a Lego man on the base. At least it's a miniature of some kind.
Be too cold for a Necron, surely.
I wouldn't particularly myself. I haven't played with a grey army before, and I wouldn't like to play with my army sort of half done. It just I want to play them when they're done, and that's only just me being strict on myself, not others. I don't mind if other people want to do it, Even my opponents, it don't bother me. If someone's trying to play test an army or they just want to get a feel for it, that's fine. Don't bother me. But my own personal preference of fielding an army is I wouldn't want to put it down unless it's done, you know? So when I've played before, in fact, my only game that I had in 8th edition, I played with bloody Space Marines because my mate had some painted Space Marines and he was like, just play with your orcs. I'm like, no, because they're not done and they're not based. And like, no, you know? So, yeah.
It's led me into trouble.
Rather play with a painted army. You know?
I remember playing a game with Reroll Joe, and I'd had a big mob of 30 Slugger Chopper Boys, and these unpainted grey Slugger Chopper Boys were moving through unpainted grey terrain. And it wasn't until about 2 turns later, when I was calculating how many boys were in the squad for their leadership, and they failed their leadership, and I lost a load more boys. The next turn later, I realised, hang on, there's 3 boys in this fucking building over here. Because I didn't see them, because they just blended in. They went full on commando and just disappeared into the terrain.
Didn't realise
so
you
it's actually
painted them purple.
impeded me, you know. Yeah, I might as well have done. But yeah, so it has led me into some trouble at times with the unpainted stuff, and especially when it's mixed with unpainted terrain.
Or differentiating between squads. So like if you had 2 mobs of Slugger Chopper Boys and they attack the same target, it's like, well, which one's in which squad? Like, you know what I mean?
Totally.
That's why playing 3rd edition is better. Because you just mob them up together and it's 1 unit now. Boom. Just better. So I had, well, still do have a reputation around my local gamer group for being the guy who doesn't paint, to the extent that whenever I do turn up with painted things, they get shocked. When I turned up with my orc army, they were quite surprised because quite a lot of it is painted. Although calling it an orc army isn't really true because there's not a single orc in there. But my grot horde is mostly painted, and the only thing that I really still haven't got around to doing, and that's because I lost my skin formula. Well, my new skin formula that I've got for painting grots, which I only recently remembered, or at least pieced together, and now use different paints that are similar to get roughly the same effect. But I've got an awful lot of things that are painted relatively tabletop. So I've got grot tanks that are painted base coated. They're painted with metal. So it's my traditional spray coated black, cover it in lead belcher or tin bits or tinny tin or rough iron or dwarf lock bronze or whatever it's called now. And then pick out some areas, paint them orange just to give a little rust effect, dry brush the whole thing gunmetal / lead belcher, and then, you know, it's a bit of ink done. And I'm planning to decorate them with Rebel Grot graffiti, and I've been meaning to do it for years. But the Grot tank collection kept growing, so I just kept on building more. I'm more of a builder, so I'm always distracted by a new thing. And I discovered recently that I am almost certainly ADHD. So I've always had a problem with that. I've had friends in the past who make a big deal about painting. I'll probably talk about that later. But I don't really care too much about what I field. I kind of... I'm more interested in getting the building right. I would never put a miniature down that I didn't think was finished in terms of its build. Painting I'm more negotiable with, because being a bit of a perfectionist, I don't think I'd ever be happy with a paint job, to the extent that an awful lot of my minis always feel incomplete because I always want to touch them up and fix them later. So I've had to try and find a way of lowering the standard just so I could get games in. And to be honest, most of what I've been playing in the last sort of 12 years has been an awful lot of X-Wing, because those are already painted. It's something I don't have to worry about, and I don't have to feel like a hobby loser, even though often I don't. But we'll get to that in a bit.
There is a bit of pressure on it, isn't there? It can make you feel lesser to not have your army painted.
Totally,
Sure.
totally.
Sorry.
I'll agree with you now. Actually, in preparation, well, not in preparation, just happened to be at the moment we decided to do this episode on one of the Orc Facebook groups, not our Facebook group, by the way, 40k Orc community, link in the description below. Get yourself in there, it's awesome. But on one of the other Orc Facebook groups, there was a post that someone put up, and the picture will be appearing on the screen now, and it's a meme of and someone says it's the face people with painted armies make when they look at people with unpainted armies, this sort of superior, lofty sort of, you know. And so it started a discussion within the comment section, and there was hundreds of comments. So I thought, oh, so I screenshotted a few of these comments, and I won't read the names out of the people that made them and that, but
I'll read mine.
It's been interesting reading. So I thought, before we do this episode, I'm interested to see what the Orc community think about this and what their different views and stuff. And so I'll read a couple of them out. So someone here says, I always make a face when an opponent slaps grey plastic on the other side of the table, like nice eBay army, bruh. And then a counterpoint to that, one cannot expect that everybody has the amount of time or the same ability or confidence in painting an army to have it fully painted. Sometimes the passion for the hobby is so much that one assembles the army to play as soon as possible. Decimating a player for unpainted miniatures deprives them of the opportunity to grow passionate about the game and the art of collecting an army, and of the chance to learn about the game. I've read some comments, and I feel some people are excluding others in an unfair way. And to the person that made that comment, if by any chance you're watching this episode now, thumbs up from me on that one.
Good attitude.
That is it's a very good point that they make there. Someone says here, I refuse to play against unpainted miniatures, as I have never played one myself. Only exception is a new player. So, you know, there's made a slight concession that if you're a new player,
wow, that is so elitist.
Yeah, it really is.
That I need to wear a monocle. The unpainted peasant. How dare he? How dare he turn up to this almighty important club of mine and partake of a flawed experience? I'm going to take this off now. It's making me think weird thoughts.
You transformed into Bill Bailey from me there for some reason. I'm like, where's Tim gone?
Oh, I should for some of the more sort of gatekeepery comments, I really should get into character for them, shouldn't I? Just go full on if I can fucking read it. Bringing a painted army is a sign of respect for the opponent, for the person who provides the battleground. But these days, respect. So this is the I'm still doing the voice. That's the kind of thing. So there's a lot of counterpoints. I won't read all of them out because I took a lot of screenshots. So I'll just read one more. Someone here, another one that I could kind of relate to a bit. I'm a stay-at-home dad and doing my best to paint my Gene Stealer cult as fast as possible. But my army is in no way ready for gaming. I hate that feeling, shamed into staying away from the gaming table, because some of my shit is yet to be painted. What sort of hobby encourages that sort of attitude?
Yeah.
So there's a mixture of different feelings out there from people. Some people see it as a sign of disrespect if you bring grey miniatures or half finished or unfinished, and other people are feeling shamed away from the table and the gaming club and stuff, which is terrible. I mean, that's shit. I mean, there's a lot of things that people talk about various people being sort of unwelcome within, you know, and no one should be unwelcome, and especially people if there's, like I say, if you're starting out, if you have limited time, maybe you've got some kind of disability that makes it really hard for you to paint things. You know, there can be all kinds of reasons: lack of money, lack of time, all kinds of different things, lack of confidence.
You come to a hobby for release, not for added pressure. You don't want people telling you what you can and can't do to get your satisfaction from your hobby.
100%.
I mean, to summarize this, if you do that kind of thing of I refuse to play someone who's turning up with plastic matches, you're a dick.
Yeah.
You're a dick. You're an arse.
I'm sorry if
And
you're
a
watching
gatekeeper.
this and that offends you, but I'm going to fully back him on that one for a change.
I will add.
only agree.
I will add. If
It's
you're
all
right,
right.
I will add. It is your right to be a dick, and you go ahead and be a dick. Fine. If you want to be a dick, be a dick. It's fine. No one's going to stop you from doing that. You know.
I mean, you are going to be a dick.
Probably
with
won't
Painted
find an
Army,
opponent
so,
that wants
I mean,
to
it
play
swings
you,
and roundabouts.
The only sort of opponent you're going to get is the same sort of gatekeepery sort of.
I mean, look, they might be a dick, but they're playing on beautifully painted tables with beautifully painted armies. So you know. Look, it is. I would say
Not
to
always.
anyone,
Not always. Some of the
Well,
painting
you could say they're
gatekeepers
doing
I've
hobby
encountered.
properly, and we don't. What do we?
Some of the painting gatekeepers I've encountered, they're good at painting quickly, not necessarily well.
yeah, true, very true.
Well,
that makes them better than us, though. So therefore, they have more to say in what is properly hobby and
what
what is
would
not.
be better or be worse, a badly painted army or an unpainted army?
Badly painted is better. I think even if it's a poor paint job, I think it's better than unpainted.
I would go the other way. However, the one thing I would say is that actually why we're drawing the distinction, because if you,
I'm just curious. I'm just curious.
Well, no. The reason why I'm asking why you would just draw a distinction is, to me, it's as bad to refuse to play someone or look down on someone for fielding an unpainted army as it is to look down on someone for having a poor paint job. But to me, that is exactly the same. It's the same kind of elitism. It's just in a different way.
Yeah.
You're attacking people's motivation, not people's ability, and those are things that different people struggle with. Some people struggle with motivation. Some people struggle with ability.
People aren't going to be better if you're dissing their paint jobs. Yeah. They're not going to get better because they're going to lose confidence and then they're going to stop doing it. Beating someone down and bashing down and criticizing them is not going to encourage them to continue and improve. Yeah. And not that they have to improve. They don't owe anything to you. They don't need to improve. If they're happy with it, that's good. If they've done it with Crayola, things and fair, at least they've tried.
They
tried.
Yeah, I don't think the need to bring to force people to paint quickly is going to get the universally good results that everybody thinks, because you're going to end up with armies that would look terrible, that if they'd been given the time and space to do in their own time would, look tons better. And I know some people are going to go, well, if you don't have some kind of hard line, some people are going to take the mickey and never paint. And it's like, look, that's kind of a shitty equivalency, because the thing is when you boil it down, there is a better way to do this, because the fact of the matter is I don't think there's anybody here who's going to disagree that when you are playing a game on painted terrain with fully painted matches, that it looks better than if you don't.
That's what draws us in, isn't it? That's what a lot of us, when our first experience of walking into a store and seeing those tables and seeing those armies, that's what makes you go like, oh.
We all agree on the outcome.
I want that.
We all agree on the outcome. The problem is assuming that the outcome is more important than the journey in between it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there's any aspect of people that are pushing people to paint their armies that some of it comes down to sort of wanting people perhaps to rush it and not do a good job of it? Just like get it done.
I don't think so.
So they're not encouraging people instead to just do it at their own pace and develop their skill. Because if I've got a friend that doesn't have a painted army, and they was to say to me like, oh, someone pressured me, I should really get my army painted. I'm like, well, you shouldn't, but you don't have to feel the pressure. But they're like, no, but I want to get my army painted. All right, yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, do. Don't rush it though. That's what I would say. Don't rush it though. Like, start off with a small bit and see how you go, and then develop your skill as you go along. Say, oh, what could I do better next time, and work up like that. And I feel like a lot of the time people sort of put the pressure on people to get things done so much that they're not giving them the time to develop their skill.
Yeah. The other good point alongside that is that the overwhelming majority of gamers who kind of want to face a painted army would be far happier seeing progress that is small and over time than you either not doing it at all or rushing it. They'll be just as happy to watch you progress over time and watch the army start to have paint on it. They'll be happy with that because they know you're working towards it. Some gatekeepers won't be happy with that, and screw them, they're dicks.
I like to think that most people are at heart good people and good intentioned. And I don't like to think it. I do genuinely think that. I think most people have a good heart and a good intention.
Oh, my sweet summer child.
And I think a lot of the time, encouragement and stuff, it may come across as pressure and things sometimes. But I think generally people do, you know, because especially if they do have pain, they know the feelings, and it is a satisfying feeling. We all know the feeling of when you've finished a project and you put it down, you look at it and you're pleased with it, and it's you can't beat that feeling. It's a great feeling. And so to encourage your friends and your people that you play with and that to sort of do the same is because a lot of the time you want them to experience that same feeling. You want them to get that sense of achievement, that sense of like completion and pride in something, and it does elevate your hobby to the next level when you've got this stuff. It is something to be proud of, no matter your skill level. So I think that some of the extreme comments I read out there is internet talk, but you know, people tend to be a little bit more tetchy on the internet with comments like that, and they like to sort of stir the pot a little bit. But I've run into relatively few negative experiences in that way. Not to say I haven't. I have been shamed for not having Painted Army, and it did make me feel shit. I'm the sort of person that it did kind of spur me on, because I'm like, right, I'll fucking show you. But not everyone's like me, and some people will go the opposite way and be like, they'll take it to like, be like, I'm a terrible person, I'm shit, I'm a failure, and so why bother? If I'm going to fail, why try? And that's a feeling that a lot of people get, and it's just a horrible feeling. And it's a big, like, where do you draw the line? Like, it takes a long time. This is coming from one of the slowest painters in the universe. It takes a long time to get an army painted, especially if you're collecting orcs, which are traditionally a horde-based army. At least they were before Grops of 5 points. Got in there before anyone else could. But it's
5 fucking points.
So are we? If you're one of these people that says like you can't play if it's unpainted, are you really expecting someone to go out, buy all the books that are not cheap, learn all the rules, which are extensive to someone who's never got into this sort of hobby, read this Bible-sized rule book, collect the codex, collect all the stuff, build the miniatures, paint the stuff, spend a fucking fortune, an absolute fortune, and invest. And then once they've spent all that money, you're going to tell me that they're not allowed to play until they've spent fucking potentially years painting that up, by which time the rule book that they bought is probably out of date and they need another one. It's you put that many hurdles in front of someone, guess what? You're not going to get any new fucking players in the hobby. And then player base is going to dry up. You're going to have no one to play. You've got to encourage people into it. You've got to welcome them into it. And the minute you put hurdles in front of people, and the minute you shame people for any reason whatsoever, you're going to lose them. And that is not good for any of us. Everyone should be welcome, no matter their skill level, no matter anything like that. Welcome them in and let them fucking get started on it. And hopefully when they're having so much fun and you're making it a fun experience for them, that's going to encourage them to get paint on it. They're going to see your painted stuff. They're going to have fun with you. They're going to want to carry on playing, and they're going to want to take it to the next level. Encourage people, don't shame them.
It's just as well there's no competitive games out there that give some kind of in-game advantage to someone who's painted. Just as well there's none of that silliness.
Are we talking the 10 points for having a painted army?
What a crock of shit. What a crock of shit. As if GW gamers don't have enough of an excuse to be insufferable cunts. And here's another reason for them to go, well, actually, I win because I've done this thing.
Do you think there's many that take any notice of that at all, though?
Too many.
Yeah, they'll take their
Do you think,
them.
though?
Of course,
Do you
you'll take your 10
genuinely
points.
think,
If you're
though?
being given it, you're
gamers-
going to take it.
Give
I
gamers
wouldn't.
an advantage, and they are going to
wouldn't.
take it. It's like my local store had power level. All the games were played on power level because the staff had decided that it was more convenient. And there were five particular people I can think of, probably quite a few more, who were just like, opportunity to be that guy, and they fucking took it. Right? We had like one sort of Harlequin guy who decided to basically just put in as many fusion pistols into his Harlequin squads as he could, and just abuse the shit out of the fact that he could. And it started without them being WYSIWYG, obviously, and then someone played the list and was like, that's not fun to go up against, and told the staff, and he's like, well, you're not allowed unless you all have them with fusion pistols. So he just went to all the trading sites, eBay and all of that, and he got as many fusion pistols as he could so that he could field it. And eventually he accepted that it was a cheesy bullshit list that you should never use. But yeah, you give gamers an opportunity. You give them an inch and they will take a mile. And I just think that is just so against the spirit of the game. Like,
but that I would say that's a minority of people. I would say it's a minority of people that we're all familiar with that guy, and that guy is always going to exist and always going to exploit every aspect. But I personally, I joked with Joe, my regular opponent, a good mate who we always play, and he's vast majority of his stuff's unpainted. He's actually been making a lot of progress lately on his Dark Angels, and they're coming along quite nicely. So I'm looking forward to being able to get him on some battle reports on the channel soon. But I jokingly said to him when we were looking at the things, and I said we were setting up the game and everything, and we were saying about we were figuring out, it was like one of our first games of 9th, and we were figuring out how the point system works and everything. I said, remember, I've got the 10 points straight away, because for that game I did have the painted stuff. I think I was using my list, just to try it out on the table. And he was like, you can fuck off. Like, if you're going to do that, I just quit now. And I'm like, I'm joking, mate. I'm joking. Like, fuck that. Because speaking personally, who the fuck wants to win like that?
Yeah, but exactly. Considering, but that's it right there. Why is it there?
Yeah.
Is it because DW was trying to say, every casual game should be like a tournament game? Pandering entirely to the tournament.
A counterpoint, is this possibly one of the reasons, or the reason? So tournaments have a policy, like tournaments are generally painted armies. Which I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with any tournaments that have their own restrictions and rules. Most tournaments, whether they're official ones or unofficial ones, they all have their own set kind of like, these are the specific rules to be able to take part in this tournament. And that I don't have any issue with that at all. But do you think it's a kind of a way where they've kind of sort of said to tournament organizers, is kind of a way where you can do it, and then so it doesn't upset the people that are painted eyes? Now it's kind of giving you a way where you can say, well, look, you can enter this tournament with some unpainted stuff, but you're going to have a 10-point deduction, rather than, because it's not painted, you can't enter the tournament. Maybe, I don't know, it's just a thought I had when the first time I read it. I thought that's the kind of,
it's probably more to do with the fact that they've got their special snake oil paint now, the contrasts. So now that they've got their lingo of be battle ready with your special, the paints do it all for you, which they don't, because they're actually harder to use if you're a beginner.
Do you think it's basically a way, a sort of an artificial way for them to drive sales of their paint ranges?
To drive sales of their paints. Of course it is. It's GW. It's always.
I mean,
it
probably is.
Always, always, every single time. And don't get me on this one, because I'm angry about Blood Bowl. So,
let's move
on.
Where do the rest of you stand in terms of like, because we've talked about like when you're playing games with your friends and you're playing games down the club and stuff, and I think we're all generally on the same page of it doesn't matter, like bring like whatever. But where do you stand on that point of tournaments being a requirement to enter the tournament to have a painted army? Where do you all stand on that?
I think it just depends on the tournament organizer, really, as to what criteria. Because I've seen it in like groups that I've been in, where someone's kicked up a stink, because the WYSIWYG standards in one tournament were different to the WYSIWYG standards in another tournament, and someone's converted 2 units of Imperial Guardsmen, and they look different from each other. So, you know, at a glance, you could confuse them as 2 different units, you know, and it's okay in one tournament, but it's not okay in another because it's different organizers. So if one organizer decides, you know, prime your base color and then do the metals, and that's grand, lads, you know what I mean? That's fine. You're joining that tournament. You know what criteria you're joining into. You know what I mean? When you're going to a tournament, you know, when I went back in the day, many years ago, it was like 3 color minimum. So it was like, I did green for the skin. I literally got like army painter spray paints. This is the only way I actually got paint on some of them. And I bought like 3 different rattle cans. I did some of them in blue, some of them in red, and some of them in yellow. I did the skin and I did metal. That was it. That was the 3 colors. They were the rules of the tournament that I was playing in. 3 colors minimum. And I went with that. And it just depends on what tournament you're going to. You just have to abide by the criteria. And it's going to change between tournaments. But that's the name of the game when you're going onto the tournament scene. You know, you have to abide by criteria set up by the organizers of the event.
I said it's not like it's a surprise to you, is it? Because you're generally going to read the tournament rules before you go, so you know what you're getting into.
Yeah. Like, and quite a lot of people actually use signing up to tournaments to actually get armies painted. They love the crunch. They love the, you know what I mean? I'm sure there's been plenty of people who, you know, 24 hours, 48 hours beforehand, they're like up to their eyeballs in like 800 points of miniatures that need to be painted or whatever. Some people love that, man. I mean, it wouldn't be my cup of tea, but some people love that. They absolutely love it.
I do that from time to time because time pressure is often one of the few things that gets me painting when I have to, because I might be letting someone down. Then it sometimes works. Not always, because it depends who I'm letting down. If it's someone who's nagging me, they misunderstand the concept of spite, because I will not paint it. We'll get on to spite in a little while. But I've crunched for tournaments. I painted some Tyranids ready for a tournament. I got the whole list painted, and I used a very... I don't like them. I don't really like to look at my nids very often because I regard the paint job as terrible, but it was done. I got 1,500 points.
Right from where I'm sitting. Man.
Yeah. Well, my standards are a bit like choosy. I'm a perfectionist, but it's fine. It's fine. But the only thing in that Tyranid army, the Kraken army that I've got painted that I think is painted well is the Red Terror. And I took a lot of time on the Red Terror, but the rest of it was just like paint it red, ink it sepia, details. That's it. It's not fancy, not well done. And some of the other bits that I did were kind of terrible. So, yeah. The one thing I would say is that generally I like to go to tournaments where I don't like to go to tournaments where I'm told I can't put unpainted stuff on the table. I prefer tournaments that provide a carrot rather than a stick.
It's going to limit your options quite drastically.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not a tournament guy. I'm a fill-in local tournaments because somebody wants to go and they don't have anyone to go with guy. Like the only time I've ever been to tournaments is because one of my friends wants to go and the partner they were going to go with couldn't make it, or they couldn't get a partner in time, and I filled in because otherwise you wouldn't catch me dead at a tournament because I hate them.
I want to take part in a tournament. I've done
would
small
like to.
ones. Me and my friends have organised little mini leagues and mini tournaments. We've had them. We've done that's great fun. And I've gone to Nick's one, and I've done at the gaming club I used to go to. We've had it's a very small scale stuff I've been involved in. I've always enjoyed them. But I would personally like to, go into them and stuff and just see how I could do. It would be for me it would be fun. It's not everyone's cup of tea. It's not.
Yeah, I do want to clarify when I say hate. I just hate the idea of them for me. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say, oh, tournament players are awful. Like, I know sometimes I do rant occasionally about tournament players and tournaments, but like largely like I kind of regard it as consensual BDSM. It's not for me, but it's consent based. Everybody wants to be there. That's fine. But I just go to fill in. But I like to be incentivized because the thing is like I'm a converter, so fuck yes, do I want to win best army when I go? Because that's the only thing I'm going to win. Because I'm not a particular.
Or the sportsmanship award.
Yeah, I go for sportsmanship as well, but I mean, I'm an only child. I'm not very good at losing, and I'm especially bad at getting my arse handed to me, which often happens at tournaments because that guy turns up and brings a list that's just like, oh, I've won in deployment. Enjoy us playing out the inevitable for an hour whilst I quibble about every fucking rules interpretation whilst demonstrating the incapacity to read or understand anything about linguistics. Anyway,
we've established that Dread is the most competitive of all of us already. So we're gonna establish that when we get to do this, you're going to be the saltiest one of the four of us when it comes to victories and defeats.
You bitches think you have salt like me. I've got a salt mine, right?
Most of my salt is thrown in my own eyes when I play. Usually, any anger or things during a game is I'm usually aiming it at myself because I'm like, you dick, you totally fucked up. Like, well, what are you doing? Like, I rarely get annoyed with my opponent. It's usually any annoyance is based at myself. Like, oh, you twat! Why did you do that? Like,
although I don't have to win. Like, I would rather lose a close game as win by a margin.
Yeah, I'm the same actually. I love a good close game. When it comes right down, that's when you're really having
close
fun.
games. Close games are never boring.
No,
like winning by just obviousness is never good for your opponent. And
or for you, it doesn't keep you engaged long, does it?
But
It makes you feel bad.
Whether either way, yeah. Well, some people don't feel bad about it.
No.
I would, and I do. But I really like a close game. That's what I want.
Hard fought game means that when you get that win, you know what I mean. It's it feels like you've earned it. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's decided on that last dice roll of the game, isn't it? It all comes down to one fucking dice, and it's like this decides it. This is it.
And one of my favorite outcomes in X-Wing is mutual destruction, because you can have two ships that fire at the same time, but obviously resolve one after the other, but it's at the same initiative step, so both of them are resolved. And I've had a couple of cases, often with the same person actually, where we've had one ship left, we fired at each other, and we destroyed each other, and being thoroughly content that was the best possible result of the game could have had. Everyone's
dead.
Yeah, everybody's dead.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah. And somewhat drifting off, but yeah, I wanted to say it like I go for best army, and you ain't going to win best army if you're not fully painted. So that's a motivation for me to get it painted, because there'll be some conversions in there that are pretty good, but it doesn't look great if you haven't put. It doesn't look as good if you haven't got paint on it.
So have any of you three? Like I've always said, like that. There's been, most of my experiences have been good, but I have felt shamed by someone for not having it all painted before. Have you three ever experienced that, like at a club or
I haven't personally.
On the table?
I haven't personally.
I have.
Yeah, I think I think I remember something being said to me, and I just went. I leaned into it altogether then. So I just like I said, I refused to prime me miniatures then. You know what I mean? Like I just went
Spite.
the whole hog. Yeah, I was like, oh, all right,
Done
you
that
gotta
too.
be that way then. I won't paint anything.
That's it. You don't like that they're not painted? Well, buckle up, Buttercup. I can respect that approach. I quite like
You're
that
lucky
approach.
they're glued together, mate. You know what I mean?
What were you saying, Dim? What was?
Oh, I was going to say, like, the one that I had the worst was actually a friend, and former friend. Scar knows a lot about this guy because I've told him a lot of stories. So yeah, it's just he would find a way to sap any fun and enjoyment out of the hobby because he wanted everything done at his pace, and he's quick. He's not a good painter. He's a terrible painter, actually, which was ironic because he used to be employed to paint. That was what he used to do.
Oh, he's a commission painter.
No. He was like a domestic painter.
Oh, right.
But he can't.
It's not a qualification
when it gets to nurtures,
a roller's quite different.
Yeah, I mean the thing is basically he's got a standard of fuck it, that'll do kind of thing, and the only problem I have with that is that no. The thing is in spite of the fact that it's blatantly fuck it, that'll do, he gets really, really tetchy if you criticize his painting. But he will criticize yours freely, even though your painting will be to a significantly better standard. He just does not see any flaws in his own painting. So combine that with someone who's like, if you haven't painted your models at all, you're a hobby loser and you shouldn't be part of this game. And he would nag me, and he knew that I'm always a problem for painting. And we haven't talked since, but now I know I'm ADHD. I've got that to throw at him next time, fucking dickhead. And like he would constantly harangue me for it and nag me and like, have you got those painted yet? Have you got those painted yet? And every time he did that, any slight chance of me being in the mood to paint the models that were for the game that he wanted to get played would go. Couple that with the fact that he would go through a thing of, right, this is my current interest, we're playing this. He always wanted to do the thing that he was interested in. And he would persuade you to take part. He'd want to be playing within weeks to months, sometimes days. He'd want you to spend a load of money and, you know, get it all together, get it all painted in a very short space of time, get playing, be horrible to you all the way through until it was painted, and then like patronizingly praise you if you managed it. And then he'd play it for 3 weeks, tops, get bored of it, do it again. Every time. And after you've done this about 4 times, like, what's the point of painting this? I'm literally going to paint these for the 3 weeks you're going to play this game, and they're never going to get used again. Because
where do we think it originates from, though? This mentality of it needs to be painted, or I'm not playing a game with you unless the armies are painted, or we shouldn't be playing with miniatures unless they're painted. Where do we think that originates from? Because it has to have come from somewhere. I think myself, I'll put into it, I think it comes from the origins of tabletop wargaming. So going back to historical wargaming, through the few historical wargamers that I've talked to, a large aspect of the hobby for some guys who are into historical wargaming is they're really big into the uniforms. Like, that's their shtick. It's like, you know, the way you'll have like 40k players who are, they're really big into the lore, and they want a lore-driven army. Yeah. It's like that.
Well, the correct squad markings.
It has to be the correct shade of color in that specific time period. With those emblems have to be the right ones, and the shakos, and you know what I mean. If you had the wrong trim on the banner, you know what I mean, you'll get like that's.
I think a lot of that though then stems from the fear of somebody pointing out and going, "Oh, you've got the wrong thing there. Yeah, it's the wrong one. Yeah." It's just someone pointing out, finding fault, isn't it? And
I think some people really focusing
I
on
think
an
you'll
aspect of
find
it.
that model of Sherman wasn't created until 1941 and should not be on this battlefield. Yeah. That kind of thing.
No, there are later editions
That's the
like
exact
that.
one, yeah.
I have met people who are exactly like that.
Yeah, that sort of thing is a lot
Funny
more
enough, he looked
prevalent
exactly
like I
like
say,
that.
within the historical scene, isn't it? They take that stuff quite seriously.
Yeah.
But
I mean-
that's what I think it originates for air hobby. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'd probably at its oldest roots, I'd probably agree with that. Actually, I think could be. I think some people could argue that it almost originates from the tournament scene, as in that you need Painted Army to get in the tournament, and then people get on board with that, and then they take that ethos into the rest. But the counterpoint to that is that actually people that are more into the competitive side of it probably see it as less important because they're more interested in the gaming rather than the hobbying and the painting. So it also would stem from people that are really into, like you say, the lore and stuff. And actually, it's been a kind of a mindset. I've come across a lot of people that are all about the gaming competitive side of it, and they don't give a fuck about painting. The only reason they do it is because tournaments make them do it. Whereas I think it's more the lore-driven people that see it as more important because that's a real important part of the hobby, that you should care about the character of the army and that sort of thing of it. So, but yeah, no, I would probably say at its earliest roots, I'd probably say it probably does stem from the historical.
I think it also helps that GW have always been a very lore-focused producer of miniatures.
I personally think it's really a lot simpler. I think it just mostly stems down to that sort of once you've achieved something and you've got once someone's got their painted army, they're like, well, I've got a painted army, now everyone else should have. It's that sort of like reaching a certain level and then just assuming that everyone else should be at the same level as you, sort of thing. A lot of it comes down to that.
Come on, guys, you're letting me down, man. Seriously.
Sorry, want to borrow my monocle?
You three could be a big deal just like me if you just tried a little harder, yeah? I mean, come on.
I could, show the old grots into the old simple green or Bios 20, like, you know what I mean? We can go back to grey. I don't mind.
There's the spite again.
Gonna say I was a couple of seconds behind him with that one.
Good job I've got such bright lighting because we're all in your shadow, Steve.
I was going to say we're all going to be
big old vat of the simple green, lowering them in. You'll see, how's this for a big deal, you fucking prick?
We're all going to be getting the Steve's shadow anyway, so nobody's going to see our minis.
Oh yeah,
there's no point. No, but speaking of historical gamers, I want to go on a little foray. So, a
little foray or a bit of a tangent? Which
forum foray. I want to. It's related.
Oh.
Basically, I've met two kinds of historical gamers because I've met the online historical gamers. Obviously, I've met real life ones. So, I just want to say, not all historical gamers before I start this, but I did find a forum that wasn't exclusively historical gamers, but it dealt with a big draw of it was a lot of Victoriana and stuff like that. I'd found it for terrain because I was trying to find cool Victorian style terrain for one of the skirmish games that I was going to play that actually died because the guy didn't support it well enough after a Kickstarter. But like, I'm big into Victoriana anyway, and I want to have like a Victorian steampunk city for skirmish game purposes anyway. I'll get around to it eventually. Now I'm going to do it with 3D printers rather than the route I was going through. As this is slightly pre 3D printing being available to the general public in an affordable way. So I was looking at like model kits and very primitive MDF. But I stumbled on this forum, and it would be very unprofessional of me to name the forum Lead Adventure Forum. And I have to say, like, I was pottering about for a bit, and mostly just I was going through a very bad period with Games Workshop. This is like 7th edition.
Yeah, I was about to say was.
No.
When did that end?
No. Hang on a minute. My attitude towards Games Workshop was far worse then than it is now, believe it or not. I fucking hated them during 7th edition. with good reason.
You're hardly throwing fucking rose petals at them now, are you, mate? Fucking
Yeah,
hell.
I've chilled out.
You've
I've
not exactly
chilled
crawled into
out.
bed with them, have you?
Steve-O, I've chilled out. You've got no idea
You
how.
should have seen him in his prime, I'm telling you.
Jeez.
I've seriously chilled out.
Just through like your emo phase or something, was it? Like,
No,
what
it was
going on?
my ward phase. Oh shit! I was not supposed to be doing that anymore. Oh well, too bad. But
Cue the buzzers.
crowbar in me again. But yeah, so I found this forum, and it was because of the nature of the forum. It had a lot of historical gamers and an awful lot of crotchety old guys, and the subject came up of should you play with painted minis, and there was one guy. And I'm not going to go into the whole thread because it was a shit show. And I left the forum as a result of this thread because I was just like, you fucking people are dicks. I just don't want to fucking be in the same universe as you kind of thing. But there was one guy who really took the piss of it. And he just like, this guy came into it and thought, I can solve this ridiculous, pointless debate. Because a lot of people were discussing merits and going back and forth and looking at minutiae, nuance. Now, the thing that I always found with forums, there was always a problem of an awful lot of people would be interested in the nuances around a discussion. And you know when a discussion is going to die because someone comes along and tries to make it black and white and tries to place themselves on the correct side. The second that happens, a forum thread is dead because that dickhead is going to take it down or someone is going to respond in kind, very mean-spiritedly, and undermine it and take the piss out of him and really piss him off. And it couldn't possibly be me. It was me. And he basically was like, I can solve this with a picture. And he was like, A. And he had A or B. And what he had was unpainted minis. And then he had fully painted minis, like probably you could see he'd gone through his picture collection or gone through Google, one of the two, to find the nicest looking wargaming miniatures on a tabletop that he could fucking find, right? And then he'd gone and got like some built miniatures, like with undercoat sprayed badly. Don't know where he got this from. On a brick and gone, which of these would you play with? And I'm just like, I mean, that's a bit like saying, would you eat this cake or this steaming pile of dog shit? Which one would you eat? As if there's a choice there. Like, that doesn't solve it, boys and girls. It doesn't solve it.
Depends on
right?
the cake, I suppose.
Yeah. Or it's like, which is the best sexually transmitted disease, syphilis or death, right? It's just like, which of these two choices? You know, it's such a difficult decision, right?
It's got to be the clap. It's personal.
No, it's death because because death is always a sexually transmitted disease, whereas syphilis is just sometimes a sexually transmitted disease. I thought this through, and right. So,
remember what I said about tangents before you.
So anyway, I mocked him for this, and
stay safe.
He got really upset and defensive, and I left that forum because even the moderator was being a dick to me. It's like, yeah, you do go on. He said to me, it's just like, yeah, of course I fucking do. You should see my posts on other forums. I'd been to the point with this cunt, but yeah,
They accuse you of being wordy.
He accused me of being wordy, and I'd only used 3 paragraphs.
Liberty. Fucking liberty.
But his response is that he'd looked onto the forum and looked at my posts and not found a single picture. He said, why are you commenting on this? You haven't shown any pictures. You obviously don't paint your stuff. And like, for one thing, the reason I hadn't taken any pictures is that they've got
That's why I left the forum. He called me.
Well, no, they've got this. They had this annual competition. They had this annual competition where it's like paint 5 minis in different categories, and you could enter all the various different categories and like 12 of them, and that looked amazing. So all of my painting effort was going towards that, and everything that I had painted that I was willing to photograph were things I was going to put into categories. So I didn't want to show them off yet until I put them on thing. But anyway, it didn't matter because like I just like nothing was going to placate this guy. But it was just like, I mean, seriously, like if all you want to see on a forum is pictures, Google Pinterest, right? No wonder Facebook wins these days. All like a meme solved all these debates. But yeah, it's just so silly. It's just so silly. I get so tired of it. Like, it's so freaking elitist to decide that you know what's best for everybody else. But here's the thing, right? We all agree that when minis are painted on their own beautifully painted table, that is best.
Oh yeah.
Right? Everybody agrees.
Preferable. Yeah.
Everybody agrees that's the preferable state. There is nothing wrong with you going, I'm sorry, but I would prefer to play against a painted army. Just because I really want to do that.
What is best in wargaming?
The lamentation of the women, always. Or if you go to, or if you, well, no. That's not
what's everyone's take on if you don't paint the miniatures yourself? My brother, who's getting into it, he's collecting the Mechanicus army, and again, another person I'm hoping to have on battle reports soon. Slight little plug. And he's not confident at painting at all, and I don't think he gets much joy from painting. And he's basically been buying all his stuff, secondhand stuff on eBay. He's been buying stuff, and he's just been finding stuff at a reasonable price that's already painted to a reasonable standard, and buying that. And so he's just buying stuff pre-painted, ready to go. And that's what. And I mean, personally, I don't have an issue with that. I know the commission painting's a massive thing now. It's not for me personally. For me personally, I've been gifted a lot of like our good old friend who no longer makes any content. Oh, I miss his content. Oh, Greentide 40k. He painted this up for me, a 6+ Steve-O War Banner knob, which was really cool. And it's cool. I love it. It was a cool gift. It's never going to go in my army because I didn't paint it. And I've received some other bits from people that are far better at painting than me. I won't get him down because he's blue tacked to my webcam. He sits above it overlooking another Bad Moon knob that someone painted for me. A lot better than I can paint. But again, he won't actually go in my army because I didn't paint him. For me personally, it's got to be something personal to me. Even if I'm not as good, I could pay someone far better than me and have my money better.
If I want to get a miniature in your army, I've got to give you a converted miniature unpainted and let you paint it then.
Probably not, because I'd probably want to convert it myself as well, to be fair.
Oh right.
you could send me the bits.
You of all people couldn't complain about somebody converting something that you give.
How dare you!
Come on.
Yeah, he would send me his prize conversion.
This is
I'm going to
perfection.
change it.
You don't even know.
But no, I mean, like that's a personal thing to me. I don't sort of hold anything against anyone else. I'm just wondering what's your guys' take on that? If like someone's got a fully painted army but they haven't done it, what's
fair play to them? Fair play to them. Like they've saved themselves a headache, haven't they?
Yeah.
Although I just want to say, there's like Dread fucking bang on with the putting fussy git on your shirt. Fucking hell.
I'm kind of similar to Steve-O, so it's like I didn't play with a painted army for ages, so people used to say to me, "Oh, they're commissioned painters," but I couldn't play with a painted army that somebody else had painted with, or I can't play with painted miniatures that somebody else has painted for me, because there is I'd be afraid of praise off of someone else. Oh, that's a really nice paint job, mate. And even if I said, I'd have to turn around every instance and go, actually, I didn't paint that. Such and such a body did. And do you know what I mean? There'd be like sort of a praise that you're not entitled to type of thing. Or maybe I'm not wording it great, but it's something in that ballpark.
I'd be exactly the same.
You'd feel a bit fraudulent.
Yeah, I would. I'd feel like fraudulent playing with miniatures that I didn't paint, because I think a large part of the hobby is the expectation that you paint your own miniatures. That's not to
I
say
think
that
if you are someone that does have a miniatures collection that's painted by somebody else, that when someone does say something, if you're straight up with them and just be like, oh, well, that is actually, you're right, it is a fantastic paint job. It's fucking the nuts, isn't it, mate? It was actually done by so-and-so painting studios over there, and you should...
Here's their card.
Here's their card.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you do that, then you're kind of, you're helping.
That's not you saying that, Scar. Like, so that would be your personal
wouldn't be
feelings of it.
comfortable.
But
I just wouldn't be comfortable with
But
it.
you wouldn't think any less of your opponent, the other side of the table, if they had a painted over.
Oh, no, not at all. Yeah.
No.
If me make his army done by a commission payer, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that's interesting. You know what I mean?
What if you
just me
knew?
personally.
What if you knew he had done that, and then people were coming over to the table and saying to me, he was like, "Yeah, thanks, man. Like, yeah, it was easy."
I'd give him shit about it.
Yeah.
I'd absolutely call him out on it. I'd be like, oh, do you like that painted army? I'm like, oh, well, this is the guy's website who did it. Like, if you want it done to the same standard, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, there's no like that's stealing someone else's praise. I wouldn't stand for that shit. No way, man. No fucking way. Like,
I mean, I'm exactly the same, but I have things that someone else has painted, and I do say every time it was them. Whenever I get any praise, I go, "Oh, that was made for me." But back on the War Forum days, like one of the things we used to do was a Secret Santa every year, and it became so popular that we did two. We did one during summer and one during Christmas, and they were always popular. And I've got things that were made by other Warbosses from that forum that I treasure. I still use them, and I absolutely refuse to not use them because they're too fucking good to not use.
And you know what I will say as well is that although I don't use them within my army, that's not to say I don't massively appreciate them, and it hasn't devalued them for me. It's not that they don't sort of get slung to the side and discarded. I treasure them, and that's why they're all on the shelf here. And it's why, like, any letter or anything anyone sent me, it's kind of all just here they're just awesome gifts, and it's just a cool thing. And I look at every one of these, and I'm like, I know who painted it and when they gave it to me, and it's just like, oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. I've got a little 6+ Stevo banner bearer, like waver.
It should become a big deal. Have you got a PO box or anything like that, or are you still rolling with it?
No, I've got my PAs working on it, mate.
Right.
It's it's I don't know, man.
Did wonder.
Can't get the staff these days, but.
But yeah, I do have some commission painted stuff. I've got a couple of armies that commission painted. It's mostly I give work to one of my friends just because, well, we'll get to this later, but there's a reason why I've got some things that are painted by people, because I've got a big problem, and we'll get to that in a bit. But I've got some Cotton Demons that are painted by someone else. I've got some Star Wars Legion Rebels that are painted by someone else. I do have the same impulse as the other Warbosses. I generally would much prefer I did it myself. I've had some negative experiences of commission for a very, very long time. I was vehemently, I would rather pay with unpainted stuff than give it to someone else to paint it, because I feel like I would be disappointed. Because the friend I no longer talk to once persuaded me to pay him £50 for him to base my Dark Elf army. I'd painted them. They were painted, but I hadn't done the basing yet because I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. I eventually decided I was going to go snow, and I just hadn't got around to getting any snowflock for it. And I also was looking at tutorials, and he wouldn't shut up. So in the end, I paid him, and I paid him 50 quid to just glue on just snowflock directly onto the base. And then he did some red ink to look like blood that, when it had dried, just made the snow look pink. And he charged me 50 quid for that. And I told him he was a dickhead. And we didn't talk for quite a long
50
time.
quid to have your Dark
I
Elves.
think the dickhead there was the guy that handed over 50 quid.
Yeah. Oh, I felt like a dickhead for that too. But yeah.
We want candy. Was that their anthem after that?
Yeah, I don't mind the odd commission, but like I said, like again, it's that kind of thing of if you fucking hate painting, and boy, I feel that. Like it took me a long time to get back into liking it, and I had to ditch the GW paints because they were just making my life a misery. And I'm much happier using Game Color and Vallejo and
I think
like
something that can really slow down your painting as well is if you have spent a lot of time converting something, or like in my case, I've got a few miniatures that other people have converted and sent me, and I'm like, I want to make them my own by painting them myself, so you know it's got my input and it's my miniature, but you want to do it justice as well. You're like, okay, someone's gone to that much effort. If it's yourself or someone else, you just like, it's not just buy a box, cut it off, glue it together, paint it. It's a lot more thought and a lot more process gone into doing something really unique, and that's only ever going to look that way once. It's a unique piece, and so therefore you don't want to rush it. It's not a case of, oh well, it's just a Space Marine, you just paint it, and if you fuck up, you get another Space Marine. It's not that, because you've gone to all that extra effort. So, you know, that can slow you right down. And some people would still be like, well, you know, how are you getting on with your army? It's like, well, yeah, like my army's not like exactly like, you know, the same as some people's. It's not just out the box. So like, it's going to take a little bit longer. Like I almost kind of wish myself that I've said about doing it before, sort of making like a throwdown army where I do just get a bunch of orcs out the box and put them together and just give them a basic paint job to play with. Because at least then I can get an army done really quick and everyone can shut the hell up. Because
I think it was me that advised you against that. I was the kind of one advising you against that, saying, because like I saw the sort of logic in what you were saying, but I also thought, well, but if you're doing that, it's only going to take you further away from what you actually want to do.
You're giving yourself an excuse to. You're giving yourself an excuse to kind of think, I'm not ready for those yet. I've got an anecdote along that might work out. Oh, but out of curiosity, Dread, have you put any paint on any of your cruiser things yet?
Yes, I have actually. Yeah, I've got the Speed Fleet Battle Wagon has got paint on.
The Rubicon is crossed. Yeah, nice.
And what else?
Because that would be my biggest worry.
If I did that. And the fighter bomber too. Fighter bomber's coming along.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, got all about it. Yeah. Now at this juncture, I've got another sort of query that we could do that will link into all the various stuff. So and pay attention to how this is worded. Out of the three of you, who has the biggest pile of shame?
Probably me.
Yeah, it's definitely. Actually, it is definitely. Well,
mine is a pile of victory, so I refuse to take part in this question.
I feel no shame.
I feel no shame. I am shameless. Do you not know me?
I would say, well, it would probably, it's Scar, because I mean, Dread, am I right in saying this? You kind of sold off a lot of stuff and started again. Did you have to build a collection up again?
I genuinely have got a shitload of orcs.
I've probably got the smallest like pile of shame, but only because I'd sort of got back in. You know, I sold off previous piles of shame.
I know I've more orcs than you, Dim. I don't have more miniatures, but I definitely know I have more orcs. In fact, I have orcs in your gaff.
You do.
He
has about 3k worth. Something nuts like that. It's loads.
New in box in your house. So that's
he's got a fucking green.
I can literally see piles of shame behind you, Dim. I can see sprues.
Oh no! I've won this hands down. I probably have a bigger pile of shame collectively than the entire of the three of you put together.
But not 40k orcs.
Confidently. Oh no, not in 40k orcs, because most.
Are you two literally competing now over who's got the most unpainted stuff?
No,
like it's a badge of honor.
Who's the worst human being? That's what we're trying to do.
God knows I've won, because I mean,
I've been to his place. I've seen it. I was like, sweet Jesus.
I haven't shown him the full extent, but I mean, just to wrap off.
People come in my place, they're like, "Oh, geez, you know, you've got a lot of stuff to do." I'm like, "You see other people." I mean, it's nothing.
I mean, Right, okay.
I've got friends. I can tell you about friends. I mean, Jesus.
So I'm not going to go through a massive list, but I'm just going to rail off a couple of things. So I've got
just
about...
let me say this: the only realm I didn't find sprues or miniatures in was the bog. That's it. The toilet. Everywhere else, there was literally miniatures everywhere.
There aren't any.
Even in the
There
bed
aren't. Well, I was going to say there aren't any miniatures in the spare bedroom anymore, Scar, but there actually are a couple in the display cabinet. So I can't even say that, and there are a couple still to move out. But I've got several Age of Sigmar armies, most of them not painted. I have sold an awful lot of my unpainted stuff recently, but I've got 3 armies for Rackham's Confrontation, Wolfen, Griffin, and Durs, and not a single one of them seen a drop of paint. I still think that Rackham stuff is probably some of the nicer sculpts that's existed in this hobby. And that's part of the reason why there's not any paint on them. I always convince myself that I'm not good enough, and I've got the feeling that I'm going to continue to convince myself until the point at which I'm incapable of painting them well. I've got massive amounts of corn for Age of Sigmar. Like, basically, if you can think of something that can be marked corn that exists for demons, mortals, and that's both Khorne, Bloodbound, and Slaves to Darkness, I probably have it, and it's not fully painted. And I might have multiples. I've got a lot of Khorne, Bloodbound that's spray painted lead belcher, but that doesn't really count for much. I've got several undead armies, not a scratch of paint on them. I do have 2 big Warhammer Fantasy armies that are painted, but most of my miniature collection, I collect all sorts of miniatures. Most of them aren't painted. I've got loads of stuff that needs to be painted that I just never get around to. And I keep buying more. I love miniatures, but I am a miniature collector, I would say. That my 2 main hobbies is building and collecting. I like to collect miniatures. I like to own miniatures for the sake of having them because I like them aesthetically. And then one day I'm hoping they will have paint on them. But I've got so many of them.
What bugs you more? Something you haven't started painting, or something you're halfway through painting? Because for me, to answer my own question there,
something you're halfway through.
If it's halfway through, it bugs the fuck out of me. Yeah. If it ain't started, it doesn't matter. It's just I haven't got to that yet. I was like, but if I'm halfway through it, and then I lose confidence or something partway through or something, from halfway through, it's there. It's taunting me. It's bugging. Like, come on, I don't know. I think when they're like halfway done, they kind of look worse. It bugs me. But I'm wondering where you 3 stand on that. What bugs you the most personally?
I can answer this one quickly. That's I have exactly the same feeling. That's why most things aren't painted at all.
Yeah.
Because I know that if I started, I will drive myself bonkers until it's done.
Mm-hmm.
So I cut the Gordian knot and just don't touch them until I know that I'm in the mood, that I'll get through the whole thing and finish it.
I don't know about you guys, but when it comes to sort of a partly painted miniature for me, it removes your ability. Once it's blank, you can sort of look at it and sort of squint your eyes and make your imagination imagine it perfectly done, and you're like, that's where I want to go. But once it's just base colours and a little bit sloppier, and then you need to sort it out and tidy it up, it just looks like, a child went at it, and it's really hard to see your way through that mess to where it's going to properly look good again. So you have to, like, I find when I'm painting, I get a miniature to that sort of like partly painted stage, and I have to almost not look at it and go back to remembering what I want it to look like, because looking at it and trying to envisage it is too difficult, I find,
I think it comes down to a little bit of that it's a visual representation of failure, whereas it's almost like I was saying earlier, if you don't try, you don't fail, kind of thing. And so, like, if something's unopened or it's just there, you haven't started it. It's just you haven't started it yet. That's just it. It's just not started. But if you're halfway through and then you've kind of run into a hurdle, or you've given up, it's the constant, like that Gorknaut I just held on the screen. It's just a constant reminder to me that you didn't finish me. You haven't finished me. You need to you tapped out, you quit, and you failed. And I haven't quit. I will finish him, but it's
hanging over.
It's looming over me. It's there, an unfinished thing, you know.
I've got a hot tip for that after Scar's done. Same what he
after Scar's done. I haven't finished a project in a very long time. It's like everything's half baked. I've had a fully painted army once, and I sold it off years ago, and that was when I used to play Warhammer Fantasy. And even then, there was miniatures in that collection that weren't painted. But I think I've talked about it before. The Games Workshop I used to go to used to have to paint your army or show progress painting it, and then they revoked that and they just let you play with unpainted miniatures. And I think that was the undoing of me. That established a bad habit, and I just sort of, anytime I've gotten stick over it, I've leaned into it and embraced it. So yeah, like I've loads of half baked and half built, half converted, half finished, lots of different projects where it's, you know, for different reasons they're not finished. I don't know how I really want to finish painting something a certain way, or I've come to a roadblock in something where I don't know what way I want to do the tank tracks on a grot tank. That's why I stopped doing the grot tank that I was scratch building. Was I wanted to do the running gear and the tracks in a specific way that's very intricate and very detailed, but what I was coming up with I wasn't happy with, so I left it. And you know, I don't know when I'll get back to it, but I think I will get back to it eventually. It could be 10 years from now, God knows, like, you know what I mean? But
won't be of us lot on your case.
Yeah, I don't know, like, it's weird. I have things that are half finished and half done. Some of them I'll feel bad about. Other ones, it's like I haven't quite put my thumb on the direction I want to go with them yet, but I know it will happen. When
and it's kind of entertaining seeing everyone squirm.
A little bit, yeah. There's a bit of that, yeah, a little bit. I'll be honest. There's a little bit of entertainment in that for me. But yeah, it's like the reality of what it will be hasn't popped into my head yet in quite a lot of stuff.
I think the principal point here in this whole conversation really is that hobby pressure is not a good thing.
No.
You know, and you can get it in so many different forms. You know, I mean, even with us being video producers, you can get that same thing there where someone will be like, you know, Dread, you started a Rust series, mate, and you did one episode, you know, that sort of thing. You know, like you get, and it's to some extent,
start a series.
To some extent, pressure is a good thing, but to another extent,
possibly the worst thing you can do on a YouTube video is put part 1.
Yeah, true. Positive pressure is a good thing, but it very easily sways into negative pressure. And I think
one of the very worst things you can do, part 9. Some people will click on that one. Or no, it's not part, is it? What did it go with? Oh yeah, episode. But yeah, the thing I wanted to kind of say is like, I think we need to stop looking at incomplete miniatures as failure. Like, that is, if painting it to the point that you got it was making you unhappy, that's not successful hobby. If finishing it and making yourself happy makes you, like, finishing it completely at a later date makes you incredibly happy, that's a success. If using models, like not pressuring yourself into painting and dragging yourself mentally and physically through the mud makes you unhappy, or driving you to pay someone else to paint them just so you can put them on the table because all you really want to do is have the fun of building them and have the fun of using them, and you don't want the in-between bit, then that's the successful part of the hobby. If you're doing something that's making you happy, that's the success you want. Judging something by the nature of, I'm not enjoying this, that's not failure. That isn't failure. It isn't. You can't do it that way, because like the whole reason that we have hobbies is so we can't fail. That's why we do them, because you can fail in real life, because that's kind of what it's there to do. You're set up to fail or succeed. That's the real gamut. The hobby is the thing that you do that gives you pleasure away from that, to drag yourself away. If you're doing something that's distracting you, that's filling the time, and it's filling you the time the way that you want to spend that time, you are succeeding, not failing.
Yes.
I don't give a shit what anybody else thinks of it, and I don't think anybody else should. It's not up to someone else how you conduct your hobby. It's up to you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want your hobby to be the same as theirs, which is, you know, to be completed and playing, whereas some people's hobby is the process of learning and getting there. You know, like it's not the end point, it's the process, you know.
Leonardo da Vinci never finished anything. He's regarded as one of the world's greatest geniuses. Unfinished things aren't failures. The Mona Lisa was never finished. It's now the thing that people go to look at the most in the Louvre. It's one of the best known pieces of artwork that exists. Stop with this idea of unfinished. I mean, yeah, if you need that to drive you to complete, do it, but do it for the right reasons. Use motivation to make you happy. Don't use it to make yourself worse or sad or more depressed. We're just getting back to this whole thing of, that's kind of the problem with it. The second you are like creating a downer for other people, that's detracting from what the hobby is there to do. At the end of the day, the hobby is here to make us all happy. That's what it's for. And if it's getting to the point where some people are just fundamentally undermining that, I think the whole hobby has failed.
Do you know who's the worst person for undermining that? Because we've talked about
Matt Ward?
when I cue the meme. Because we've talked about people, when I read them comments out earlier, and people talking about the experience and people shaming you for not finishing stuff or not starting stuff and whatever. But the person we really need to talk about the most is ourselves. Because if anyone has ever shamed me for not doing something good enough or not doing it right, the worst person that's been so fucking harsh to me is me. Me. It's me giving myself a hard time. Like you just saying, Dim, like it's not a failure. It's not a failure. That's what I'm telling myself it is. No one else is telling me that. It's me putting all that on myself.
Mate, you ain't gonna do better than me. Yeah. I'm already giving myself a much harder time than you're gonna. So leave off.
I did it the other day. I was so adamant. I had the two knobs that I've converted. I felt like I've been painting these for too fucking long. It's pissing me off now. I want these done. I want these done. And I had arranged to spend the evening with the missus. So I knew I had limited time that day, but I had set myself the agenda. I want these done today. And by done, I mean 100% finished, varnished, everything, put in the case. So I was adamant, and I was looking at the clock, and I've got an hour to go. I'm almost done. And I usually, when I'm applying that highlight to the skin, very careful, taking my time, little bits. And I was like, I was going a lot quicker. It was more of a rough dry brush of the highlights and everything. And it was like, yeah, I'll do. Get them done, get them outside, spray on the varnish, get them done. And then I was doing the videos, little showcase videos that I do once I finish everything. And I got them out and I'm like, no, they're not finished. They're going back in the box. They're not ready yet. I've got to tidy up that skin a bit. And they're perfectly serviceable. But the only reason they're not to the standard I like was because I was like, I've got to finish them. If I don't finish them today, I failed and I haven't achieved my thing. So I put that self-imposed time frame on it. There was no reason to do that other than my own criticism of myself that would have done. But I think it's that old cliched saying that you're your own biggest critic, but it's so fucking true. And I think maybe it's we sometimes do these sort of videos and we're very focused on, like, you know, oh, other people's, what they say and what their impressions are, and that's what's getting me down. Actually, for the big part of it, we're the most guilty of it. We put ourselves down all the time. We give ourselves a fucking hard time. And actually, that's maybe the person we really need to have serious words with more than anyone else. More than people on the internet, more than people at your local store who make you feel like shit. The person that's probably making you feel the most shit is yourself. So have a word with yourself. That's what I need to do. Just like give yourself a break sometimes. Give yourself a break. Yeah. And do that.
Also, that word.
Also
obviously. Maybe it's time to pop a little link up in the corner, talking about, because we've slightly veered into these sort of mental issues of things. Check out our last episode if you didn't see it, where we talked about mental health within hobby.
You really are gunning for my job, aren't you?
Sorry, mate. Sorry, but I've got to plug the shit out of that one, only because it's something I'm personally quite proud of that we did that, because I think it is a really important topic and everything, and I would like it if you know, if you haven't watched it yet, if you would get, you know, if you go and watch it and give feedback on it and stuff, because it was quite a difficult episode to film and stuff, but it's I think I was quite proud of all of us actually for doing that, because it wasn't easy. But I think it sort of ties in a bit to this episode, and it's kind of what inspired us to do this episode and talk about this part of it.
I was grumpier than usual. That's quite the achievement. But also, I just wanted to point out, like I'm not trying to say that karma is an automatic thing, but there is such a thing as hobby karma, right? And these are lead adventure mages. Never gonna fucking paint them.
I don't get it.
This is the Lead Adventure Forum. The Lead Adventure Forum from earlier.
Now I get it.
Yeah.
I still don't get it.
I wish if someone got a penny they can drop for me.
Just a jar of them. Hello and welcome to tonight's episode of ASMR with Jar of Pennies and Dim's Demise.
Well, I think unless anyone else has got more to say on this, I think we've probably covered all ground there, haven't we? We want to see, unless there's a particular point anyone wants to pick up on a closing statement or something.
Not off the top of my head at the moment.
You don't have to paint your models, but you definitely have to drill your barrels.
Oh, people that don't drill their barrels are the scum of the earth.
Mold lines. Jesus. What sort of heathens?
So the moral of the story is, if you wasn't already unaware of the pressure that's out there to paint your miniatures, now you are. So now you can feel that pressure too.
Under pressure.
No.
Demonetize.
Don't let people
Like this episode was ever going to get monetized. Come on now.
I mean, we swore a lot, so yeah, that's the point.
Yes, we did.
But yeah, I suppose, like I've already said, well, I said my closer too early.
No, you did. And do you know why you were saying it? I was thinking he's nailed his closing, but I've still got some shit to say. I mean, it's me, so I've always got some shit to say, haven't I? But
well, you know, you said it, not us. We were seconds behind you, but still.
Hey, I'm self-aware, people, you know.
What happened to Dread not painting during this episode? Huh?
I'm not painting. I'm just licking my bra.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. The guy's a prick.
At least you're
I'm
honest.
not wanking. This is white paint.
I'm feeling pressured to get painted. I've got like 2 days to get my Trogoth painted, finished. I'm feeling painting pressure from the community.
Or just think, when you're watching this back,
That'll be done.
It'll be done.
That'll
It'll
be
be
done.
done. At the time of viewing this, it'll all be
Or-
done, people.
Or I would have given up and cursed and screamed and
That's a thing. Why do
It'll
people
be
care?
interesting for the premiere chat to see what you're
Let's-
saying at
let's
this
just-
exact moment, Dread.
let's just hope that second coat of varnish doesn't do
Oh,
what
that's
first coat
coming
of
along
varnish did.
nice, isn't it? Looking good.
Why the shit do people paint red? Fuck red.
Red's
Right.
awesome.
I'm with you there.
Undercoat
Red can be
brown.
bastard.
Your problem is that you sprayed the whole thing silver. If you would have undercoated Xenophilian brown,
No, didn't
cream, that
Don't
red
tell
would
us what to do.
mint, mate.
I didn't?
Brown for silver? No, if he was doing it in gold, yeah, but like,
I did Xenophil black actually, but black and white. But
Yeah, so that gives you a cold or yeah, basically a cold red.
yeah, I should have done brown, didn't I? Well, I do actually.
Xenophil highlighted.
I know, yeah. Then you used to call the bangs. Well, it's Jennifer Harder. What you need to do, Steve-O, is get an airbrush and get the Xenophil highlighting going.
highlight to that miniature. It would have enhanced it to no end.
What you needed was a good couple of coats of varnish, actually.
Yes,
What you-
quite.
And then put on a base coat, and then think about the next coat you want to put on, and put on a varnish instead, and then start painting the miniature.
Well, of course.
Wait, he's still using a paintbrush. Oh.
You're going to use your hands. This is some kind of baby's toy.
You ain't never gonna see it, but I painted a little.
Steve-O got the film reference.
Ah, you can't. You can see it. There's a Pokemon ball on the back of his cart there. See? Oh no, that's the there it is between his legs. See the Pokemon ball?
Well, I
Yeah.
object to that because that's from a different universe, and I don't want that on my table. Thank you very much.
Well, the fucking
I'm taking the piss
new-
there, but I'm
fucking
kind of
new
one of them
lizard
people
men.
that kind of
I
bugs
know
me
you
a
are,
bit.
yeah.
the bloody
I know.
new lizard men have got fucking Pokeballs. Jesus, after the amount of drugs that GW are on to design the bloody the Lumineth faction, anything's possible now.
There's some mental shit in Age of Sigma, aren't there? There's some proper crazy out there stuff. Like, yeah, it's mad.
Look, GW. When Tolkien wrote the word high, yeah, he meant lofty and highborn, not stoned. You
I
do
don't
know that,
know.
right?
Or flying.
Maybe they've been on the pipeweed.
No, that's hobbits. Hobbits are the stoners. That's why everything seems so nice over there in the Shire.
Yeah, I want to go and live in Hobbiton.
You don't. It's rubbish.
Well, I keep hitting my head on the beams and doors and shit, but
Rubbish.
It's rubbish. You want to be a fucking.
I mean, you get ripped off, you don't even get a full pint, do you? You know, in the...
It's come in quarts.
Well, I think we better bring this to a close, haven't we? I think we better bring this to a close because, yeah. So, shall we all each say our goodbyes? I'll kick it off. This is 6+ Steve-O, the biggest of big deals. Signing out.
Good boy from Scar saying, don't forget to drill your barrels.
It's enough said from Dread. And this guy's gonna eventually say something, I'm sure.
Time for Dimmy bye bye. I can't make that the
That's a
catchphrase.
fucking terrible catchphrase.
Learn from my mistakes. Don't do shit catchphrases and use the learn from my mistakes catchphrase.
Let us know in the chat, guys. Should he stick to that catchphrase? Should he use that?
Could you invent a better one? Maybe.
Should I stay or should I go? Darling, you've got to let me know. If you say that you are mine, I will be there till the end of time.
Oh, Oh my fucking god! You may not have a catchphrase, but you have got a new shtick that you can do, man. Because I want now spoken word songs from the Hobby Git.
Sir Timothy Crippleton, the
So
third,
remind me, what was
with
it,
his
the
new
show
album.
back in
You
the
do
day?
enough videos on that,
The
you can release
Destruction.
your own album.
Yeah,
I
but
want
there was a-
Bohemian
wasn't
Rhapsody.
What was it? It was a video game show. Was it the Game Master or something like that, where it was just like the head?
Yeah, it
with
was
the monocle?
The Game Master, Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart. Yeah.
Yes. Well, Scar's right, the holograms, they were fucking everywhere. I remember,
Everywhere.
I mean, do you remember, might be a bit before time, do you remember Visionaries? There was a cartoon of, and you had the action figures, and they had like a, sort of like a Zord kind of thing, a bit like Power Rangers and that, but the figures had it on their chest, like
Chest,
the picture of like the animal.
I
So
think
they'd like
it
be a
rings
gorilla or a lion or a bear or something.
Yeah,
Like, there'd be like
rings a bell.
holographic on
It
their
does ring a
chest.
bell. Yeah.
And then later on, I got these little things. They were like animals, but like, what do they call it when they're like people but animals? What's it called? It's like a term for it.
40s.
Not furries. No, no. Google that, people. No, like they were like, you know, like what they call it? I don't know, but they were like little action figures, sort of like monster in your pockets and that, collectible. And they were all like animal shaped, like a giraffe and a lion and a bear and a rhino and shit and that. And they fought in that. They were in like armored and stuff, but they were like, you know, standing up on like, you know, their legs and that. And they were like collectible ones. You'd buy a pack, you get like 4 or 5 of them in a pack, but each of them had like a little hologram on their chest, and it had a symbol of either a log, fire, or water. And then obviously it was, you know, the wood beat the water because it floated on the water, and the water beat the fire, and etc. But yeah, they were cool. I used to collect them. I can't remember if you used to have to hold your thumb over it to like warm it up for it to appear. So I think you had to like hold your thumb on it a bit and rub it to see what, you know, what side they were on. Yeah.
The thermal react type thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fad shit.
Oh,
I've got
colour
pogs.
changing shit as well. Colour changing.
I've still got some of my pogs.
Hot Wheels and stuff. Micro machines change colour when you got them wet, when you get them hot.
Oh yeah, yeah. I still do that now. Actually, some of the Hot Wheels I bought for Gaslands are exactly that. They're like purple, shiny purple, and then when they get hot, they go a different colour.
We got it in a fucking hobby now. We got colour changing paints and shit, and fucking
I remember
reflective
the aqua
paints and
changes.
shit.
I remember aqua changes. Like I remember having some Ghostbusters figures that if you got them wet, they looked like they would been slimed.
Yeah.
I remember those.
Do you remember the t-shirts?
a load of
Do you remember the
Ghostbusters toys.
t-shirts that change colour when you got hot and shit? Do you remember them?
Vaguely,
Tie-dye looking things. They were all the rage in the 80s, and all it did was just like make like sweat patches and shit like really fucking visible.
Yeah, it was kinda-
I remember there being a fad for these
Great
sort of,
idea.
like, scratch and sniff stickers.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh.
Ugh.
Yeah,
They were awful. Yeah.
yeah, I remember that.
They had them for a TV show as well. There's a TV thing where you're supposed to watch the TV and scratch and sniff as you go along with this TV show. I think it was Noel's house party. They did a scratch and sniff along.
Probably. It sounds like the
Yeah.
sort of thing they did on that. I remember them doing a lot of stuff like Children in Need with like 3D glasses and stuff, and certain bits you had to
Yeah.
put your cardboard like 3D glasses on for the certain bits and that. And
I like Noel from Noel's House Party, but I just like to pretend that he's just stopped existing after that show ended. Because
well, you're not a Deal or No Deal fan?
I'm mighty pissed off because I varnished my Trogoff, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
got some white speckle.
look at the muscularity.
Oh, that's nice, yeah.
I think he used, I think it's like olive oil or cooking oil to try and reduce that. If it gets,
Oh, yeah?
if it gets bad, apparently, yeah.
Well,
It's nothing
it's,
worse
what's
than-
annoying is like I've got
Was it
into
frosting?
is that like a point of almost getting there, but then I sprayed him and got like white speckles all over it, so I've ended up going out with a knife and picking each one off. Ugh.
Oh, dread. Doing
Yeah,
the,
done in
the
time.
most awkward way of solving the problem. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So, yeah, and also it took the shine off my metals, which I was like, oh yeah, fuck, duh. So yeah, gotta probably retouch them up again because now I've got matte metal and it looks bollocks. Don't like it.
a proper decent Vallejo shiny metal going on, and that's all bollocks.
What do you mean you don't varnish your miniature scale?
Fuck off.
Do we have any news or shit to talk? Oh shit, we do. I'm guessing we're probably going to have to address it.
Guess what?
Sorry, randomly. Just
The snaggers.
yeah, we're probably going to have to talk briefly about it at the start because it's the first Warbosses since.
All right. Right, let's roll into this one then. Right, ready? Everybody. Right, cool.
How long till this video goes out? How many?
Switch on dread mode up.
3 days.
There you go, dread mode up, activated.
Why? What's up, Siva? What's the matter?
I keep banging on about it. I just don't think what's the word? The current events are right for the thing. 'Cause it kills them being evergreen.
Okay. If you want.
I
agree with him. Yeah.
I think we've always tried to make it so that people could watch an episode we recorded a year ago and it's all still relevant.
Yeah, fair.
And that's like my only reason for not wanting to do it. Like, I think it ages a video, and by the time it comes out as well, they may drop a massive bombshell, and then we look like a load of idiots because we're saying sorry,
We're Xenos.
completely wrong. Like.
No fear of that. We are Xenos, no fear of that. If it was fucking Space Marines, sure. But it's not. And also, the other thing to remember is they did a whole reveal where they didn't show any Space Marine stuff, which means the next thing is got to have twice as much Space Marine to make a lack of Space
You
Marine.
know that. Yeah, I was thinking that too.
So,
There's gonna be
like,
so many more Space Marines on the way soon.
because they're
There's
obviously
been a break.
addressing criticism, but the fact of the matter is they'll just address criticism next time, and the criticism will be the endless mourning of Space Marine players. We got no new toys. Entirely new range, but not enough. Never enough.
Was it you?
Has everybody got a pillow?
Oh, it means we've got like 20 fucking takes for the intro. No, I promise I'm going to shut the fuck up when you do your intro. I'm going to let you do it in one take. Pressure's on now.
Why the fuck did you say that?
Same thing I do to my opponents when they're rolling dice. Wouldn't it be a shitter if you rolled a 1 right now? That dice is fucked.
Dread, not a fucking peep, right? Not a fucking peep until I'm done.
I won't even look here. I know that puts you off.
Oh, it does.
You're going to be painting through this one, Drew?
No.
Oh, good.
Alright, got your hint. 2 seconds.
Yeah, it just looks like you're disinterested otherwise. If you are disinterested, at least pretend to be interested. Don't get a fucking book out like them.
Oh, there's a thought.
Yeah, do the book, but you always do it when I'm fucking talking.
Not deliberately. I just know I've got plenty of time when you're talking.
Oh, I would be insulted, but it's so true.